and welcome to this Youth Issues program. As young people, we face many challenges, and our goal is to talk about these challenges and to provide solutions for them. For the next few minutes, we will be discussing dating. Now, this is a big topic. My name is Anna, and helping me to talk about this big topic are my friends Sam, who is a single pastor who loves to travel, and Matthew, who is a newly married pastor, and he really loves sports. So guys, dating. When I hear about dating, I always hear this thing about finding the one or finding your, what's the word? Soulmate, yeah. What's this thing all about?
I think it's the idea that there is one perfect person out there for each one of us. Personally, I don't buy it, to be honest with you. I think I don't buy it at all. It's a nice kind of romantic notion, but even on a practical level, it doesn't work. You know what I mean? There have to be like 50% women, 50% men in the world. There's just not, statistically speaking, enough people to make it work. But on a more, I guess, local level, I don't really buy into it because I think it removes the element of choice. If there is a soulmate for me, someone who is perfect for me that I'm destined to find, then I don't actually get a part of the process. I'm not involved in it, in actually searching and selecting and choosing. And I think that as a Christian, in my experience as a Christian, I've always felt that God has shown me that he wants me to make decisions about the big things in my life. And he'll help me in those decisions, but he will lead me. And so if there was a soulmate, it would just remove that element of choosing. And the person you end up with is such a big part of your life. He was going to want me to play a part in it, I think, personally.
I agree. I agree. I think that we need to dispel this notion that God necessarily, I don't know, splits the sky, points his hand and says, there, that's the one over there. I think that God is really interested in our choices. He's interested in us making selected decisions based upon reason, wisdom, based upon what we feel his direction is. And he enjoys that dance with us, if you were. And he wants us to be able, hopefully, to make healthy decisions, that we can pick someone and be dedicated to that choice in finding out more about them and let it grow from there. So yeah, I dispel the notion of the one. Yeah.
Okay, I see what you both are saying, but say I'm a young person and there's plenty of nice guys out there who have shown some interest in me, but I just don't feel like they're right for me. What about that? Am I not waiting for my soulmate? They're not the one. So how do I know if I found the right person?
I think it's a wide spectrum. Just because there isn't the one doesn't mean that you shouldn't be discerning and should just choose anyone.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? I think that there's
please don't.
Yeah. No, there has to be balance. You still have to be discerning in the choice that you make. I don't think it's healthy for any young person. I can speak from my own experience to just think I just need to date someone. And it's difficult because there's a lot of pressure because people around us are dating, and so we feel we should be dating as well, just to get off the mark, as it were. Do you know what I mean? I can remember I didn't want to be the person who couldn't get a date. I didn't want to be the person who, among all my friends or my classmates or peers, that wasn't dating. It's quite a difficult thing.
I've asked the same question to myself many, many times, and I guess for me, the older I've got, I've tried to pan the camera out of me and, out of others and put it more on me. It's less, now for me, it's less about, oh, there's so many people, what do I do? And it's more about, I need to sort myself out. Dating is a very broad term and different people have different definitions for dating, but at least for me, personally, I understand dating to lead towards marriage eventually, a committed relationship. where I spend the rest of my life with somebody. And so based upon that premise, I kind of need to be ready for that. And so therefore more of the focus is put on me to be the right man. And I guess there is a huge level of faith to know that the right woman will come along to fit that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying makes sense. But say Matthew, you're newly married.
Mm-hmm.
When did you know that your wife was the person that you really wanted to be with?
Okay.
The day he laid eyes on her.
Love at first sight.
No. I mean, I don't believe in that one either. I sound really unromantic, not believing in these notions like love at first sight and stuff. I've come to learn, and again, all the things I've learned have just been from experience and bad experience and making mistakes. That before you start dating someone, you really need to have a very clear, articulate picture in your mind of what you actually want, what you actually are looking for in a boyfriend, girlfriend, in a partner, because otherwise you're not going to end up with anything. Do you know what I mean? If it's like if you go shopping and you don't have any idea of what you need in your house, you're going to come home with a load of junk food, everything that's on a 2-for-1, buy one get one free offer, and you won't have any of the staples that you actually need to get through the week. Do you know what I mean? You have to think before you step into the supermarket, especially because there's so many offers blinding you. It's the same with dating. Like you say, there could be so many guys that are into you or so many girls that are into you, and you have to have an idea, how am I going to discern who I want to be with? And ultimately, I think Hollywood's got a big part to play in this. Like, the decision ends up being made by who I think is the nicest looking. Do you know what I mean? That's really what drives us a lot of the time.
Yeah, but looks are pretty important for first impressions.
Well, they are important, and I'm not saying that they aren't, but there are other important things as well. But a lot of the time, we just get sidetracked by this person's attractive, or yeah, they're really nice, they're really cute, and they're not actually a good fit for us at all.
Could I just add to your point? Because I agree with what you're saying, but like I don't feel that anybody can 100% know exactly what they want. I think that we can have ideas and we can work towards it, but many times we can necessarily be shocked as to what potentially we were attracted to, or what necessarily we. Yeah, I think what we want changes over time and we start to learn about ourselves. But there is a level of understanding about ourselves which I do feel we need to get to understand that I am this kind of person and I like these kinds of things. I'm a fun-loving, outgoing person. I love to be in nature. I love random, spontaneous road trips where you don't plan, you just drop everything at the cuff and you just go. And 6 hours later, I'm in Scotland. There's not. I know a few women who probably wouldn't be on that continually, but at the same time, I would need to try and find someone who complements that aspect of my character. But that's important to know. That's the type of person that I am. Let me put it this way: I probably wouldn't go for someone who is exactly the same way as me, simply because it would just be bouncy castles all day. Nothing would get done. As simple as that.
Okay.
Because we just have fun.
You're just all about the fun.
Yes, and that's one of the priority characteristics about me. I would need someone to balance me.
But you need to have fun as well.
I agree. But it's about understanding. That's what I understand by understanding myself.
Okay. So you're both saying that you have to know about yourself before you start learning about other people who you want to date. Okay, so when is this? Is it when you're 13 or when you're 25? When am I ready to date?
About 60 should be fine. No, I think that learning about yourself is a process, and it's all your life you learn about yourself. I would say you learn more about yourself through relating to people and connecting to people. Friendships and family is where you learn less about yourself sitting in a room, just closing the door and just staring at the wall. You need people to talk to and relate to, and it's only through those interactions you find out about, oh, I get angry about that. Oh, I don't like that. Oh, I love that. Oh, that's cool. No, that's not cool. And from when you're young, 13, I remember when 13, 14, 15, hormones are just going crazy. You've only got one thing on your mind, and you need to kind of relax yourself in just paying attention to just simply relating to people and developing strong and healthy friendships.
Hold on, is this face-to-face or does Facebook and Twitter count?
Oh, come on, man. We know that social media is just this huge wall that we put up against each other. It's not real. It's this facade, it's this mask that we use. Really relating does come one-to-one. It does come groups. It does come trying to just understand each other's characters, and through that understanding each other. I think, at least for me, I'll speak for me, growing up as a young teenager, there was a huge pressure to be dating. And there's such a broad term, but for me now, dating can only really happen if your mind is really cued on settling down and getting married. At 13, that was not on my mind. But yeah, so for me it's people, it's relating, it's friendships, and it's growing with that.
What about you, Matthew?
Well, I'm loath to put a cap or an age on things, but you certainly need to have a certain degree of maturity, do you know what I mean? And I think 13 is way too young, like the early teenage years, I think, because if you think about the amount that you change from the age of 13 to the age of 16, like, it's quite a short space of time, but you change massively, do you know what I mean? And so your question, you were asking about how do you know who you are, when do you know who you are? You don't know who you are when you're 13, because when you're 14, you're going to be like, you could be a completely different person and stuff. Like Sam said, you've got hormones and stuff. So I really don't think it's wise to start thinking about dating at that kind of age. I think you need to have a degree of maturity, be comfortable in your own skin a little bit more.
When you're that age, at 13, 14, whatever it is, I remember when I started being interested in girls and talking to girls, whatever, it was such a surreal experience to me, because you've never felt that way about someone. It's new, it's fresh, it's Disney. And so, like, when that happens at 13 or whatever age, you automatically think, that's it. She's the one for the rest of my life, because you know nothing else. You know nothing else, and it's you just get taken up in the moment, and no one else understands. Guys, she's the one. And it's only when you grow older you start to realize that relationships are a little more complicated, and the foundations are built on much more than physical attraction, or the fact that you beg your parents to get more minutes so that you can talk on the phone longer, or what have you. It's very hard as a young teenager, I guess, of what I'm trying to say. And I guess I go back to my point. It's so important that you surround yourself with key individuals to be an objective voice to you and eyes to you. Yeah.
So what are the other things that are important to a relationship then? You just said it's more than physical attraction or talking on the phone. So what do you think?
Oh, I think
you're the expert. You're married.
Well, like I said before, every lesson that I've learned has just been from making 10 mistakes and the same mistakes. Do you know what I mean? But
I thought you were perfect.
I think compatibility is the main thing that you wanna look for, more than looks or anything else. And don't get me wrong, looks are important, because there needs to be that kind of animalistic kind of attraction. Do you know what I mean? But it has to be someone that you actually click with. You have to know your interests aligned, the way that you feel about certain things aligned. Do you know what I mean? Are you compatible? I think one of the key things, this is a really key acid test for me, can you spend a good amount of time one-on-one with this person in a room without getting on each other's nerves? Because if you can't, don't even bother. Do you know what I mean? No matter how attractive they are, if you can't be together for a few hours without feeling, oh, they're getting on my nerves or having a little argument or something, it's not going to work out. So compatibility, do you know what I mean? Those kind of practical things that help you think, okay, it might work with this person.
Sense of humor.
Exactly, exactly, sense of humour. And then just even looking a little further down the road, what are their aspirations? Do they want to have a career? Do they want to have a family? Like that can really be a roadblock very early on. If they don't ever want to have a family and kids and you do, or you don't and they do, it's not going to work. Do you know what I mean? So this is one of the things for me that I always found was one of the biggest difficulties in dating, and it's that when you meet someone and you like them, you want them to see you in as good a light as possible. So you do your very best to suppress every bad habit that you know that you have. You put your best foot forward, like you just put your A game on, do you know what I mean? And so in essence, what I'm then showing this girl isn't Matthew, but it's like Matthew 2.1. It's like a better, more refined, polished version of myself, which might make her think, oh, he's really great, but it's not actually real. Do you know what I mean? It's just
6 months passed by.
Well, this is it. It's just a veneer, and that's why I think we want to be very careful, not getting into anything thinking, oh, I can change them, I can polish them up a bit, I can chisel away a little bit, because ultimately, when you first meet someone, you're meeting a better version than the actual person anyway. So. I don't think you hear this perspective very often, and I never really saw this or heard this when I was a lot younger. I didn't really like the process of dating. And I want to throw it out there because I think it's important, because like I said, when you watch TV and things like Hollyoaks, EastEnders and films and Hollywood and stuff, they make you think that dating is the best thing in the world and I can't wait to start dating and stuff. Like, it's really hard, do you know what I mean? Like, especially, number one, like I remember always feeling undateable, and I couldn't get dates with maybe girls that I wanted to, and then you're dealing with rejection. What if they say no? And oh, can I call them yet? Do you know what I mean? I sent her a text, she hasn't responded yet, and it's been 4 hours. Can I text her again? Do you know what I mean? These are, you're laughing because I'd imagine maybe you've experienced that kind of thing before. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't enjoy any of that. It wasn't fun for me. Do you know what I mean? So there were certain times maybe I was dating someone and I enjoyed the actual experience of dating someone, but quote unquote dating, I didn't like the process. In fact, I'm very happy that I'll never have to date someone new ever again. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's just important to give young people the freedom to know that it's not the easiest thing in the world, and it is a bit awkward and clumsy and uncomfortable and stuff, and you do sometimes feel you're just kind of fumbling your way through.
But that's okay. It's okay to be clumsy and awkward and stuff, and I think that's why it's so key to have good quality friendships that surround you constantly, because you're not always going to see things objectively and you need help.
You mentioned knowing yourself, and I hear a lot of times people say, oh, well, you need to be happy before you're in a relationship, because if you're not happy, being in a relationship isn't just going to make you magically happy. Is that true?
If you have two unhappy people and they get together, that's war. You just get two miserable people, and that unhappiness will just multiply. If you're not happy in yourself and you're not comfortable in yourself, in your own skin, and if you don't have certain things clued up, not everything, but if you don't have certain principles clued up, two happy people make a party, and that's what I would say.
Yeah, going into a relationship looking to be happy, that's great. Going into a relationship looking for someone to make you happy, that's actually quite dangerous. It's a big burden to put on that person, do you know what I mean? And it's only going to lead to your own personal heartbreak and maybe further issues for you. Like, you're placing your happiness in someone else's hands. Like, that's a lot. They've got their own stuff to deal with, do you know what I mean? They've got their own happiness to try and maintain. And in that kind of dynamic, I think you will end up making your own self more unhappy, I think. So no, you shouldn't be looking to go into something and giving that person charge of making you happy. Instead, you need to be in a cool place. The best way for it to work, I've experienced, is when you're not even able to pinpoint when was our first date, because you were just, you had a friendship and it just kind of blossomed and stuff. Do you know what I mean? That's really the ideal, I think.
So it's not really, oh, we became official or anything like that.
Yeah, when you can say, oh, I didn't even really realise that this was kind of happening, but it just happened, you know?
But I think it's also important to kind of have that conversation with that person so they don't, so you're kind of on the same page, I guess. They don't think you're in a relationship and you do. Or
Oh, it's interesting you say that, because I know that I've spoken to people that have been like, oh yeah, me and this girl, we're just friends and we're thinking whether we should go into a relationship, and we talk on the phone a lot, and the reality is, if you talk on the phone to someone like every day and you see them fairly frequently, whether you've put the label on it, relationship, you're in a relationship. Do you know what I mean? It might not be as advanced as certain types of relationship, but when you start having that dynamic, you are in a relationship with someone. Do you know what I mean? So it would be naive of us, or of me, or of us to think that that isn't still a relationship, whether we call it that or not.
Or it could just be a platonic relationship.
I personally don't believe in platonic relationships.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, it's a friendship.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, there you go.
What do you think, Sam?
I don't know, I was just hearing you talk, and I was thinking about when it transitions from friendship to a relationship, or because there's some level of commitment that takes place.
Yeah.
And I think it's vulnerability. I think it's the point at which you feel that you can trust someone, that you're willing to drop a guard, because we all have them. And I think you mentioned it before, we put our best foot forward. Okay, if I meet you for the first time, I'll introduce you to Sam version 5.0. And in time, the guards start to drop as I start to get comfortable. And for me, that's when the transition happens. It's not a, let us change our Facebook status. It's not a, let's do this talk thing. It's, relationship happens before you formalize it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that's governed by vulnerability, because vulnerability breeds connection. And it's almost like giving a part of yourself to someone. And if they reflect that with vulnerability themselves, I think that's when relationship starts to grow and blossom from there. Looking back at 13, 14, there was no vulnerability happening. None whatsoever. I was the most confident person you could ever imagine. Yeah, right.
Let's flip the coin a little bit. We've talked a lot about dating and being in relationships. What about breaking up? Everybody goes through heartache. How do you overcome that?
With great difficulty. Yeah.
It can be the hardest thing in the world to deal with, and it will take time. There's no fast forward button. To a certain extent, you just got to brace yourself and just ride the pain for a little while. I wish there was a way of kind of circumventing that, but it's gonna hurt. Regardless of whether you're the one that was dumped or you're the one that did the dumping. Dumping itself is just such a horrible word, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it will take some time. I guess some of the best advice is fight the temptation to just go straight into something else. Do you know what I mean? That's why people rebound, because they want to find someone to make them feel good about themselves and stuff again. But you need to take that time and that space to just recover, to get used to being by yourself and to rebuild yourself. Do you know what I mean? Because when you become a couple, it's like you lose a little part of your identity, because you become Matthew as opposed to just Matthew. So I need to build up Matthew again, refine my identity and stuff. The best thing I think is spend as much time as you can with your friends and your family, because the reality is anyway, when you're in a relationship, you can't spend as much time with those other parties as you might like to. So throw yourselves into those relationships that are stable and aren't going anywhere, like people that will make you laugh and take your mind off things rather than just being cooped up in your room. That would be my number one point, I guess.
Depending on how you deal with a breakup, does lie a lot in how it began, and how you, and that kind of colors how you are going to respond to a breakup. If you went into a relationship feeling empty, alone, and wanted to fill that void, if things do go pear-shaped and you end up breaking up, you're essentially going to be broken because you originally started off broken in entering into a relationship. I think that all human beings ultimately want to feel that they are loved and they belong. And you invest a lot into relationships. I have invested a lot into previous relationships where, much to my downfall, I have allowed the other person to define or to take responsibility of my feeling of being loved and feeling belong. So when they leave and they're out of the picture, it crushes me, because the first things that come into my head is I'm not loved and I do not feel I belong. And that's decapitating. It's really, really hard. And to me, this is why I'm so thankful for being a Christian, actually, because my sense of feeling loved and wanting to belong doesn't need to come from someone else. It only needs to come from God, because God doesn't break up with me. And I don't want to sound so cliche, but that's the reality of what has helped me over the years. I'm not saying I've always felt that. I have not. I've been so broken in some breakups. And I think that over the years I have changed and started to mature in my understanding that if I was in a position where I broke up with someone right now, don't get me wrong, it would be hard, you know, and I'd deal with it very, very difficult, with great difficulty. But I know that my God loves me, and that keeps me afloat to rebuild, because that's what it's about, rebuilding and becoming stronger. Also, another thing that I've always dealt with is the blame game. Oh, it's my fault. Oh, it was your fault. It was what? It was a choice that two people made, and that choice never worked out. Isn't that life? That's how it goes. But for me, a big part of trying to deal with a breakup is understanding of where your value comes from. If your value comes from someone else, I would say to myself years ago, and to others, know that you are loved and belonged by, and you belong to God, and that changes a lot for me. That changes a lot for me.
And I think that's a great place where we can conclude this. Are there any pieces of advice or anything that you want to leave someone who is young and dating? Any final message?
Compatibility, that's the most important thing for me. Know what you're looking for before you go looking for it. Otherwise, you're just fumbling around in the darkness.
Work hard at understanding it's not about two people, but it's about three. I believe in God with all my heart, and it's two people trying to get closer and closer to each other with the help of one person who can see everything and know all. And that's a big thing for me, to try and be connected to God. Yeah.
Well, thank you both very much for joining me in this exciting conversation about dating.
No problems.
And thank you for joining us. If you have any questions or would like to know more or want to share your story, contact us at lifeconnect.info. And I leave you with this thought: live healthy, grow wise, and enjoy your youth.